Hello, everybody, and welcome to Recyclist. My name is Eric Provost. I'll be your host today, and I'm being joined by a very special guest that I'm very excited to welcome to the show right now. She is an assistant professor with Florida Atlantic University. Please help me welcome Dr. Yalan Liu. Thank you so much for joining me today, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me here. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you are specifically your field at Florida Atlantic is under civil, environmental, and geomatics engineering, correct?
Yes, yes. So our department has three different fields: civil, environmental, geomatics, and I am an environmental engineering assistant professor.
Nice. Just out of curiosity, what is geomatic engineering?
Yeah, so geomatics is a lot of like mapping and planning, like the GIS that we do. That's part of the geomatics.
Hmm.
So that's like a very powerful uh, tool or like a field that could really complement the civil and environmental research.
Nice. Awesome. Well, you've recently begun looking into an issue affecting a lot of landfills around the country, being referred to as Black Goo, correct?
Yeah. It sounds like a science fiction, but but it's real.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like a 1950s B horror movie. It's like Beware the Black Goo, and you see the words appear on the screen.
Yeah.
Um, I will say it does, just the terminology of Black Goo does, it's a vague term that to me suggests that there's still a pretty big lack of understanding about what it actually is. So, what can you tell us about this phenomenon, about this Black Goo substance that's appearing at landfills?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely still very mysterious to uh, us as researchers and also landfill operators about regarding what is this exactly. So black goo is named from what it looks like and feels like. So it's black, it's gooey, sticky. It's a type of clogging issues in landfills. It's been found in all the wrong places that you can think of in landfills, landfill leachate pipes, sumps, landfill gas wells. And it's not just a little clog that you can just flush out. It's a very stubborn material that even if you clean it, it comes back pretty often and quick.
Do we know what types of materials are kind of composited in this Black Goo yet? I know, obviously, you said it's still, you're still very much in the early stages of understanding, but like,
Yeah,
what types of things do we think are in this disgusting blobus material?
yeah. So this thing it's quite new, but it's not like a brand new topic. Dr.
Hmm.
Benson from University of Wisconsin-Madison, his team got a project funded by ERAF to look into this issue a few years ago, and we recently started looking into this with a project funded by the Hinckley Center. We found some pretty similar things about the composition of black goo. So it's a mixture of the organics and inorganics. There's the
Organics and inorganics.
yeah, there's a combination of a lot of different things. There are metal oxides like iron, calcium, silicon in there, and there's a lot of organics in there. Specifically, very interestingly, we found the composition of black goo across different sites have this similar structure as this synthetic polymer material that we use in diapers or personal care products or dewatering agent. It's called polyacrylate. It's this very it's this super absorbent material that could absorb a lot of water and swell the volume to 100 times of its original volume.
100 times. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I look into, I've seen your research and I've seen some of the pictures, and the black goo just kind of appears, at least in those images, to resemble some type of like Play-Doh or silly putty or something that you would buy for like children or something. Just a much more disgusting version of that. And in terms of like the viscosity and the feel of it, is that even remotely accurate?
Yeah, for sure. It's this viscous material, very sticky. Like there's one video that I showed to a lot of people during my presentation at Swana,
Hmm.
and it's very astonishing. Like even if you vacuum it, clean it from the bottom of the landfill leachate sump, like after the heavy vacuum, it still holds its shape. So it has this crazy cohesive and sticky.
So malleable, but still somewhat rigid.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a very important question worth asking is what are the toxicity levels in the black goo that you found thus far? Is this something that people should be cautious of even touching?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like I said, it's a combination of a lot of different things, organics and inorganics. So that's definitely not something you want to get exposed to, right?
Hmm.
And even just that smell. I don't know if you've ever smelled landfill leachate.
Oh yes, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's not the most appetizing smell in the world.
No, it's very strong, not pleasant.
Yeah,
So
hydrogen sulfide, very
oh
strong type. Yeah,
yeah,
rotten eggs, stuff like that. Ammonia sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. So black goo does smell like that. So it's
Okay.
like there's no like solid evidence that shows it's toxic, but things we know that there are the different organic chemicals and inorganic chemicals. So it's definitely not something that you want to get exposed to very often.
Yeah.
But we're still testing the chemical and biological components.
When it comes to obviously, we've already mentioned landfills a couple times. You've mentioned sumps. Uh, so so it's landfill operators who should really be caring about this issue. Anybody else you think might be in danger of their own black goo issue?
Landfill operators, engineers, regulators, we should definitely care about that. But I think it's not just a landfill operator's issue, you know.
Yeah.
So a typical landfill, I'm sure you and a lot of your audience know like how much leachate are generated by landfills.
Yes.
And you need to get those leachate out of the landfill. If you have a type of clogging that are damaging your equipment and preventing you from getting that leachate out, what's going to happen is you're going to build that pressure on the landfill liner, and eventually there could be a failure of the liner, and there could be a leak of that leachate into the groundwater and contaminating the groundwater in our environment. So I would say it's not just an issue for the landfill operators and regulators. It's also an issue that's going to impact everybody.
And how widespread do we think this the black goo issue is? Do we think it's just within landfills within the southeastern United States, across the country, potentially across the globe, depending on what types of new materials are used in item manufacturing and some of the new chemicals and new items that are winding up in landfills now? How big of a problem, how widespread of a problem do you think this is?
Yeah. So at this point, we know it's a very widespread issue. Now, we've been talking to a lot of landfill operators in Florida, right?
Hmm.
So we know that it's a big problem in Florida, and not just municipal solid waste, but also like construction demolition landfill, ash landfills. But since we started working on this, we've also been approached by operators from across the country, like like Mississippi or Pennsylvania. And also we've been talking to landfills outside of the country, like Canada. And I know Dr. Benson, during his project, he was collecting samples from like Brazil. So it's not just in Florida or in a specific region or in the US. It's like a growing concern for many regions and different countries. But during my interview, like when I was talking to different landfill operators, it seems like the impact of the black goo really varies. Like some of them say it's causing huge issues to their operation, to a point that they have to abandon some of the gas wells or abandon the some part of the leachate collection system just because it's not possible to fix it. Others say it's not really impacting their operation. They're still, you know, capable of managing their leachate properly without treating this.
And would I be correct in saying that the biggest issue that arises from the black goo is just the clogging aspect of it, that it just gets into pumps and it gets into gas and leachate lines
Mhm.
and just completely clogs the works up?
But yes, yes, that's very correct.
Um, do you find, and shout out to our CEO Ramon Rivera, who had this thought, and I thought it was a very great point to bring up. Uh, in your research thus far, have you seen any correlation between types of pumps versus like pneumatic versus electrical or anything like that, where it seems to be a bigger problem in one versus the other?
I don't. This is a very good point. I don't think we have looked into that yet.
Is there any danger of, because of the nature of some of the materials within the black goo? I know I asked about the clogging issue, but doubling down on the whole potential toxicity
Mhm.
aspect, are people seeing that it's also kind of eroding away at the piping or the wiring of their lines, or is that not really an issue with this? It's more just the clogging.
I think health implications is definitely something we should look into. And one thing that we're still testing, but I don't know if you heard about PFAS.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So PFAS is this. A lot of people were asking me, is there a PFAS in black goo? So PFAS is this group of synthetic material that has been putting into a lot of the consumer products.
yeah. Most famously Teflon,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, and forever chemical we call
Yep.
it. And once we discard those consumer products, when they end up in the landfills, they get into the leachate, they get into the gas. So we also do research about PFAS. So we've been really curious about that too. So we've been doing some testing the PFAS levels in the black goo, and we did find it there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's and no, we still have to do more tests to see like exactly what are the levels vary among different samples, but we know it's there. So it's not just about clogging. It could potentially impact the health as well.
Yeah. In terms of potential solutions, even temporary solutions, for a clog, you can sometimes just kind of push it through. Hopefully it's just, a dam of, some sticks, leaves, and a couple other pieces of solid waste that you can just kind of push through. Can people treat clogs from black goo as if they're other clogs, or do they have to come up with completely new fixes and new workarounds for those types of clogs?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. Now, so like traditional clogging in the landfills include things like mineral scaling,
Yeah.
like calcium or ion, like precipitate out of leachate due to some pH change or temperature change and deposit on the pipes. Those type of clogging, we usually use acid flushing. There are also like biofilm buildup caused by the microbe growth. Those type of clogging, sometimes we use like biocides or chemical solvents like hydrogen peroxide to treat it. So while I was talking to different landfill operators and companies that deal with, you know, black goo cleaning,
Hmm.
it seems like some sites they were able to use the acid flushing that we usually use for the mineral scaling to remove black goo, and some other sites they were able to use like solvents like hydrogen peroxide that we usually use to treat biological clogs to remove black goo. So there seems to be some similarities, like especially certain treatment that could help to reduce the traditional buildup, seems to work on Black Goo at some sites. But we've also talked to some operators that are dealing with Black Goo, and they were not able to use this traditional treatment to reduce their Black Goo formation. So it seems like a very complex material and varies from sites to sites. It's not just minerals, not just biofilm. It's a hybrid material that combine all those things and also have the synthetic polymer in there, and some microbial components. So I would say it's definitely a new type of clogging that has been evolved from the traditional clogging. But some of the things that we use to treat traditional clogging seems to be working on some Black Goo, but not all of them.
Awesome. Well, I'm very much looking forward to continuing this conversation, Yalan. And to all the listeners, I want to thank you all so much for checking out part 1 of this interview with Dr. Yalan Liu. And make sure to check out part 2 in the next episode. But just a quick reminder before you leave, Recyclist is a registered trademark of Diamond Scientific, an industry leader in gas analysis, instrumentation, and solutions. Make sure to visit them online at diamondsci.com. That's diamondsci.com. Or you can even set up a personalized presentation just by calling 321-223-7500. My name is Eric Provost, and again, we will see you back here next week for part 2 of this talk.